It is 5 o'clock on Monday, February 9th, 2026, and I'm calling the regular Wausau School District Board of Education meeting to order. Ms. Peck, performing roll call, please.
Sarah Brock. Here. Charles Berger. John Creasher.
Here.
Nick Rocher.
Here.
Pat McKee.
Here.
Jennifer Pioli. Here. Corey Sillers. Nick Strala.
Here.
Jim Boucher.
Here. Please stand with me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It is the mission of the Wausau School District to advance student learning, achievement, and success. And at this time, I get the opportunity to read a proclamation coming from Madison. And this is a tremendous proclamation because we all know we depend on it. Whereas school bus drivers in the state of Wisconsin travel millions of miles a year to safely transport hundreds of thousands of students to and from school every day. And whereas drivers, managers, and operators of school buses work to practice and promote the highest standards to ensure the safety and transportation of their passengers. And whereas, in addition to transporting students to and from school, drivers are tasked with the important responsibilities of vehicle maintenance and cleanliness, assisting students with specialized needs and ensuring student safety. And whereas the Wisconsin School Bus Association, through its board of directors, pledges its full and dedicated cooperation with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation's Bureau of Transportation Safety, Division of Motor Vehicles, State Patrol, and the Traffic Safety Council, as well as the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, schools, law enforcement agencies, parent-teacher associations, cooperative educational services agencies, otherwise known as CESA, and other organizations across the state in promoting public awareness of the importance of school bus transportation. And whereas this week the state of Wisconsin joins with Wisconsinites in thanking school bus drivers, managers, and operators across the state for the critically important work they do to ensure Wisconsin students have a safe and reliable way to get to and from school every day. Now, therefore, I, Tony Evers, Governor of the state of Wisconsin, do hereby proclaim February 9th through February 13th, 2026 as Wisconsin School Bus Driver Appreciation Week. And we greatly appreciate what they do in working with our schools and getting our students to and from school. So thank you, and we will continue. At this point, agenda item 6, Ms. Rakowski, 4K principal, will share the exciting things happening in the 4K and EC programs. Welcome, and thank you.
Here tonight, not the little ones. Good evening. I'm Kara Rakowski, the 4K principal, and I'm joined this evening by members of our Wausau West Early Childhood Services class, and they're going to introduce themselves.
So I am the Wausau West Early Childhood Services teacher, Amanda Van Oosten.
I am Emerson Henneke.
I'm Wyatt Stromberg.
So tonight we're proud to highlight our Big Friends partnership between our Lincoln Early Learning Academy and Wausau West High School. Big Friends is a partnership we've had between 4K and Wausau West for, I think, at least 18 years, if not more. It's a structured part of the high school early childhood services course, and it benefits all of our learners in the district, from our youngest to the oldest. It allows students to apply what they are learning about child development, communication, and leadership directly in an early learning environment, and we are the benefactors of that in our 4K program.
I can speak a little bit about this, but what it looks like in action is we are taught to read and introduce ourselves to children. We are working with play-based learning and just basically engaging with students in the classroom and teaching us how that looks like, which has helped me a lot, especially with somebody who is interested in majoring in education in college.
Yeah, I agree. The book project that we did at Lincoln Elementary School was like the best one. Like the best project I've ever done, I think, for high school, because it was like we got like the students engaged in like the book we were writing about, and yeah, stuff like that. And
So for the project, our students, the high school students, bring coloring templates for the 4K students, and then the 4K students color them, and then we take them back, and our fashions class makes like little puppets and stuffed animals out of those monsters, and then our early childhood students then write books about their monsters, and then we take them back and give them their monsters, and we do the books, and the children get to kind of see that all in action. So it's a fun collaborative project there.
So they bring the book to life, and they are role models for all of our little ones. For our youngest learners, in addition to being role models, our big friends provide consistency, positive interactions, and then just that opportunity to see older students and what they've learned. In the past, when our high school students graduate, they walk through the halls and they've made those relationships with our 4-year-olds, and they have really good connections.
So impact it has on me is the experience to go to the 4K has definitely reassured me on my career path into education and what I want to do with myself in the future. Just working with the kids and being able to create a relationship with them and become friends with them has also just been extremely fun. I work at school districts and I work at different schools also in the district, yes, for D2M, and getting to gain this other experience, especially with 4K, because I don't really get to work with that age range a lot, especially since I have moved to Lincoln. Lincoln, yeah. I get them mixed up, but
Many of
it
them.
just, but the statue in that building really helps.
Yeah.
With Lincoln, so let me just add that. But it has definitely helped me a lot, especially with deciding if I want to teach like elementary education or early childhood. This has made me very reassured, and I think Wyatt can agree with that as well.
yeah, I for sure can. I just came back actually from Red Mountain Elementary School. That's where I teach for G2M, and yeah, those kids are awesome there. I love teaching elementary school. It's so great. It definitely made a big impact on my life, and yeah, hopefully can follow through for the future and stuff like that.
And so why this partnership matters so much and so much to our early childhood program is we know that 60% of teachers work about 20 miles from their home high school. So this is a really great kind of grow your own program that we hope that we will get these educators back in our school district as well. And then also, like Emerson had mentioned, it's confirmation for them too that they want to do this and they want to continue on this road to education. I would also speak to the students' mental health at high school and their attendance rates as well. I have students who say like, are we going to the 4K today? Or you're like, yes, we're going. And they're like, this is why I came to school today. I want to go, see the little friends. I want to, show them this project that we talked about this last time. And so they really look forward to it as well.
So overall, from our 4K perspective, we're just very, very grateful for the partnership and to have our big friends. It's really funny because we have a lot of stories about that big friends language too, where people run into people in the community and they're confused by that. But it really is a 4-year-old language use to be able to say that because they look very large. But we're very, very proud of the impact that it has from our littlest to our oldest learners. Thank you.
Well, I would think that some of our board members would have something to say, so I'm going to open it up to the board. for comments?
I'm sad you didn't bring the puppets.
Oh.
They're very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. We should have brought them up.
Diana, we need pictures of the puppets in the books.
It's just a great, you've done such a good job of weaving together so many different things, you know, from building the monsters to creating the books to helping the 4K students as well to get multiple different classes. It's just what a great example of what we can do when we all work together. Awesome.
Other comments?
I love your enthusiasm. Like, watching the two of you talk about it, it's just really beautiful. I hope you stick around. I hope we see you in a few years in the classroom.
That's one of the biggest things right now. I'm excited about the fact that you're thinking about education. Education is a tremendous field to go into. Wyatt, if you're thinking about elementary or pre-K, you will find a job anywhere because guys don't usually go at that lower level. And it's an exciting area to be in, and I appreciate that. You do have a great smile. The kids probably relate to that very well, just as you do as well. So, well done, and I'm hoping that we can continue to do a program like this. Any other final comments? Not? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, how can we top that? Moving to the next agenda item, looking at public and student comment. With that, I would like to recognize speakers and students who wish to make public comment. But before we do, here are a couple of reminders. The board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on district matters. The president reserves the right to stop speakers from continuing if names or positions are referred to or inappropriate language is used. Please identify yourself by name and state your address. Each statement made by participants shall be limited to 3 minutes in duration. Respect will identify time remaining, and we'll see that up on the monitor. And with that, we have Delora. You're up right away. That was a surprise, right?
Yeah, I've attended, but I've never spoke before, so I didn't know there was a sign. Good evening. I'm Delora Bride, Wausau East parent. My son isn't on the hockey team, but he is one of his closest friends. And their family means a lot to ours. I'm here because these 8 boys deserve a fair chance to compete. This isn't just about hockey, but it's really about access and fairness and making sure East students' opportunities aren't limited or diminished compared to their peers. I know some decisions sit beyond this board, but I hope the district keeps working towards real balance between East and West. When families experience perceived or witness unequal opportunities, it affects where students attend and which programs survive. I planned to bring my son tonight to show him what civic engagement looks like, how to come together with your community, stand up for your friends, and use your voice to advocate for what is fair and right. He's homesick today, but it's a lesson I still want him to see and understand. East may be small, but we show up for each other. Thank you for hearing the concerns about the hockey East issue that's been going on. I do believe that students that want to participate in activities, whether it's sports or music or theater, I think that those opportunities should be available to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for being here, and thank you for your email as well.
Thank you.
Jim, I just have to point out, I do think there's an East hockey game tonight.
Yes.
Otherwise, we would have more
Yes.
people
Yes,
speaking
right.
That's
at
correct.
this meeting tonight. So just so everyone's aware, the fact that you came is great support, and thank you for doing that. but I know we would have other parents, players, etc. Aside from that Kingdom Rapids, I think it is.
Yeah,
Thank you for.
I did. I told our friends I would come and say something for them.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Pat, for pointing that out, because that game is taking place right now. Thank you. Agenda item 8, approve consent agenda. Action is requested. Appointments, additional staff, replacement staff, contract increases, separations, resignations, contract decreases, terminations, leaves of absence, retirements, minutes, regular session of January 12, 2026, and the special session of January 26, 2026. Payments of bills and budget status and investment report, donations to the district. Those donations are Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin, Don and Joan Smith, Elizabeth Anderson, Rob Barbier, Forest Park Neighborhood, and Sean and Cheryl Slane. I am seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended with great gratitude for donations to the district.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Agenda item 9. Education Operations Committee meeting on Franklin, Rib Mountain, Lincoln, and John Marshall at 95%. As referendum projects for each facility, each of the end of the design phase, 95% completion. The board sees the designs and budget and is asked to consider approval of these plans to be issued for bidding. Here, 95% complete designs are being shared for Franklin, Rib Mountain, Lincoln, and John Marshall Elementary Schools. The board is being asked to consider approval for use in soliciting competitive bids. This was all presented at the Ed Ops meeting earlier. I'm seeking a motion to approve plan designs for Franklin, Rib Mountain, Lincoln, and John Marshall Elementary Schools as presented to be issued for bidding.
So moved.
Second.
Any follow-up questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Legal expenses for second quarter of 2025-2026. At the January Education Operations Committee meeting, Interim Assistant Superintendent of Operations Elizabeth Channel presented a summary report presenting all legal counsel expenses incurred during the second quarter of 2025-2026. The report is broken down by law firm and by type of legal advice sought. This was a written report that requires no action, just follow up as well. And we'll continue. Agenda item number 3 on this issue. At the January Education Operations Committee meeting, Director of Technology Ralph Williams presented the demographics report for the 2025-2026 school year. Ralph, was there any, Ralph here, there wasn't anything additional or anything like that? Okay. Agenda item number 10, Wausau West Chiller System. Meeting Interim Assistant Superintendent of Operations Elizabeth Channel and Ryan Romansky, Director of Buildings and Grounds, presented to the board a request to solicit bids for the replacement of the chiller system at Wausau West. Are there additional items? Continue then.
Thank you. All right, Ryan.
You want me to do that?
Go ahead.
So yes, we had the approval to solicit bids at the January meeting. We did so, and on February 3rd, we had 4 bids received. Somerville and my team reviewed all the bids, their discrepancies, inclusions, exclusions, and verified that Forefront Mechanical successfully submitted the lowest qualified bid for $1,248,000. Forefront Mechanical is a local contractor, and they also recently worked at Wausau West in the 2022 referendum. The bid did capture the entire scope that we were looking for. If you remember, the estimate for that project is $1.3 million. So we were able to stay under that budget. In January, the meeting, as far as funding, the board approved the funding would come from Fund 46. And so with all that in mind, the administration is recommending that we move forward with the contract with Forefront Mechanical for the project. Any questions?
Let me put the motion on the floor and then ask questions. I'm seeking a motion for the administration who is requesting board approval to award the bid to replace the Wausau West chiller system replacement in the amount of, as I have it here, $1,347,165 to Forefront Mechanical and to authorize administration to execute an agreement for the completion of this project.
So the actual cost is $1,248,000.
Let me just finish up
Oh,
by,
I'm sorry.
I need it to move that forward. That motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Now, questions?
So we need, why do we have a motion for 1.3 if it's 1.2?
It was updated for the $1.2 million, so $1,248,000. And then Ryan, you could just share where the 1.3 came, or the, 1.3 came from.
Well, 1.3 was the additional cost that we were gonna incur for, that's for the controls. So we inadvertently added that into the project. The 1,248,000 is actually Forefront's contract. That's their bid amount, that's their portion of the contract.
So the motion, then you only need the 1.2.
Correct, that's
Okay.
right.
Motion made for amendment.
Correct.
Okay. So I move that we amend the original motion and change the dollar amount to $1,248,000.
Second.
We will take that first, the amendment first. Okay. Any follow-up questions on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll go back to the original motion. This was a Q&A at this point in time. We've already moved it forward. We're seconded, and now we have questions. Any follow-up questions on this?
With any part of this project, could we apply to the federal grants that were announced by Congress last Friday? Could we qualify for any of the Title I grants?
I'm uncertain if we do at this point. I don't know if we
No.
would.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
We can certainly pursue that.
That might-
It's unlikely, but we should pursue that.
Okay.
We should do that.
Other questions? I'll put it forward. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate the work. Wausau East Hockey, the update and informational presentation on the disbandment of the East Merrill Boys Hockey Co-op and potential options for the district, Wausau East and East Hockey players. And I stress the co-op with East Merrill Hockey. I'm stressing that.
Good evening, John Tomsky, Director of Secondary Education, joined up here by Mr. Barth, the head principal at Wausau East. So tonight's presentation is informational for the board and the public. Of course, when we're finished, we welcome any questions, comments, or feedback from the board on what we have to share. Please click to the next slide. So just a quick review about co-ops and the WIAA and how all of this works. So high schools agree to be a member of the WIAA. Part of what comes with that is abiding by the rules and regulations. This allows high schools to compete at the level and things like tournament series, have a conference, all state honors, those sorts of things. Specific to co-ops, a co-op must be approved by the conference in which the co-op is going to be moving into. So for us, that is the Wisconsin Valley Conference, which is comprised of West, East, Spash, DC Everest, Wisconsin Rapids, and Marshfield. So when it comes to adopting a co-op into a conference, it is voted on by the principals of that conference. If the conference supports the co-op, the conference then goes to the district school board for approval. We approved this co-op back in January. And co-ops must be approved by the deadline, which is dependent on the sport. For instance, we're talking about hockey tonight. Hockey's deadline was February 1st. Next slide.
So why are we here tonight? Prior to December 2025, throughout the state, there's some discussion about realignment of conferences. So through that discussion, we had talked to the Wisconsin Valley and others around the state, and there was a true commitment between the 6 schools to stay together as a conference, as the Wisconsin Valley Conference. So as of December 25th, or December 2025, our co-op with Merrill was supported, and we were feeling that Blue Jack hockey was by far the best opportunity moving forward. So on December 15th, then we had an ed-ops meeting with the Wausau School District, and at that time, we had some discussions, a little bit about an East-West co-op, but through kind of informal discussion with the Wisconsin Valley, there wasn't a whole lot of support with the East-West. So we eventually brought to the Wausau School Board on January 12th, final approval for the East Merrill co-op, and that would have been a 2-year co-op. We still were under the anticipation that the Merrill School District was fully supportive of that co-op. And then January 14th, we were not at that meeting, but then heard that there was some heavy discussion to dissolve the co-op, which is a challenge because our deadline is February 1st. So once we had heard, or I had heard that January 14th, they were looking at really and truly dissolving the co-op, I had then requested emergency meetings because we needed to get the Wisconsin Valley athletic directors, principals, and then ultimately the school board in 2 days. Because at the January 28th board meeting of Merrill is when they were going to vote on the dissolving or the continuation of the East-West co-op. So if you flip to the next slide, the 28th, which was a Wednesday, came around, and we were prepared in the event that they were going to dissolve because we had to get an emergency meeting scheduled, and then in more of a pressing time to get our school board together to adopt a potential co-op. Merrill did decide to dissolve the co-op. So we then had to get our athletic directors, principals, to that emergency meeting, which was held then on the 29th. During that meeting, although it's a closed meeting, we did bring up a motion to move forward with an East-West co-op. And according to our bylaws, according to the bylaws, in order to adopt it, it has to be a majority vote. Historically in the Valley, there were 9 schools and there were 7 schools, and now there are 6, which was a bit problematic depending on how the vote happened. So we had all of the pieces set in the event that it was going to be supported. And then we have up there as well, January 30th meeting with our school board in the event to pass the co-op to get it to the WIA by February 1st, which is a hard deadline.
So I wanted to summarize our conversations with the WIAA around this situation. So this is just kind of a summary of my notes of my conversations with the WIAA. Merrill's decision to move away from a co-op is in the spirit of co-ops. The purpose of a co-op is for a school to build up its numbers to go out on their own, which is what Merrill is attempting to do. We were told that this is not a unique situation that co-ops may find themselves in, unfortunately. There is not an option for the Wausau School District or Wausau East to appeal the vote made by the Wisconsin Valley Conference Schools back in January. We inquired about an extension of the February 1st co-op deadline. We were told that has never been done, that has never been granted, and that the WIA Board of Control has no authority to force a conference to adopt a co-op. So the WIA can't come back to the Valley and say, you are adopting this co-op. They have no authority to do that. Next slide, please. Some conversations around implications for the individual students. So in this case, we're talking about East hockey athletes. If they were to move, and by they I mean a 10th through 12th grader hockey player at Wausau East, if they were to move via in-district transfer to Wausau West or open enroll to another school to play hockey, they would incur a 1-year eligibility penalty. of which there is a process to get a waiver for that eligibility. Waivers are not guaranteed, and specific to this situation, the WIA said that the discontinuation of the program is not interpreted by the Board of Control as an extenuating circumstance for the purposes of receiving an eligibility waiver. So really, the WIA is telling us that our hockey athletes would not be granted a waiver, or would be very unlikely to be granted a waiver. This does not pertain to 8th and 9th grade students. I believe the verbiage in the WIA is after their 4th semester of their high school career, the eligibility penalty kicks in.
So where are we right now? First, I do want to say that I hope our East crew right now is having a great game down in Rapids. I know they're playing. I know a lot of their families are going to tune into this and know that we're super proud of them, proud of the way that they've carried themselves through this emotional roller coaster that's been. The families, the support. I know for me, I have I'm deeply proud of who we are at Wausau East. So really, to our families, to our students, I thank them through this tough discussion on how we handle ourselves. But the reality is, right now, without receiving a majority vote through the Wisconsin Valley principals, there was a motion that was brought to the floor of allowing and supporting an East-West co-op with JV only. There are a lot of frustrations around that. I do hear that and I feel that. And the Wisconsin Valley administrators voted to support that, even though there isn't a requirement by the WIAA because the JV co-op is a local control. I did support that as a feeling of it was either supporting to get our kids on ice or the potential for not having hockey. So it's been a very challenging couple weeks. I know the passion and support from our families, but right now with the dissolving of the co-ops with Merrill, we did present and the option right now, the current reality is East-West co-op JV only. So we do have some options, so here's kind of where we're at. There is one student that currently resides on the east side that open enrolls to West and currently plays. We currently have one West student that is on the west side that open enrolls and plays at Wausau East. And then it says on there too, West also has 2 open enrolls other students on their roster. The numbers, what you see there are the current projection of current hockey players coming up through the system. So this will directly affect students that are currently at Wausau East High School, which is 1 current junior, 5 current sophomores, 3 9th graders, and then our incoming 8th graders 2 and 9th graders 2. That's a tentative number as well. So it will have an impact on a handful of students. And as we maneuver through this, how do we continue to relentlessly advocate for our athletes and our students and provide them opportunities and pathways to the best that we can. But that's our current reality. So again, I've already said this, but right now there is the approval and support, although that's local control, but that is an East-West JV only co-op. And that's, like I said before, we internally, WIA has no oversight in that opportunity. We could, on the East, at East High School, we could leave the WVC and go independent, which would be a bit of a challenge having the current numbers that we have and also no goalie right now on our roster. We could run a JV only schedule if we stay at Wausau East High School, or continue between East-West JV hockey. Now with that though, moving forward, we have to look as a WVC. We currently have 6 member schools. And through that process, if there is a motion on the floor and a vote, currently it's indicated in our bylaws that it must be a majority vote. Tough to do when there's 6. So part of the process now is for us to present an amendment or a change to our bylaws. That is going to be discussed. I know I've had already some discussion with our commissioner, our WVC president, which would force a tie. Now, we can't go back, but at least moving forward, if those amendments are made, then we can bring back another proposal prior to the February 1st deadline. We could also look at in the future, which would be prior to next February 1st, a co-op with another school. There's some potentials in GNC, there's potential schools around. But again, as we move into next year, right now with the rules that WIA have and the rules that the bylaws of WBC, it's the East-West Co-op JV hockey or the standalone independent for West East High School.
So as I previously said, there was some discussion with WIA about an extension to February 1st deadline. They were not very optimistic of granting that. We could formally ask as a district for an extension to that deadline. Like I said, one of those has never been granted before. It is a potential option that we could do. Also in our work with the WIA, we've had some discussions over suggesting changes to the co-op process, specifically to prevent a situation that we just found ourselves in. So co-ops, so for example, a potential option, co-ops are renewed every 2 years. Maybe we could suggest a clause or a process where they were reviewed yearly and then reapproved every 2 years, just so that it forces the dialogue between the schools and really approving and committing for another year rather than waiting 2 years to have those conversations. Just an example of a suggestion. Next slide, please. At the local level, at the district level, we could take a look at our in-district transfer policy. Now, again, I want to, the caveat of this conversation, athletes are still under the eligibility rules of the WIAA, but what you see up here is our current in-district transfer policy for secondary schools. Right now, students are able to in-district transfer between East or West per an IEP team decision, that would be for a special education student, or when comparable academic programming is not available at the current school in attendance. So a lot of times it's IB at East, AP at West, auto is at East, engineering at West are some examples of those programs. And then there's the special considerations that are a case-by-case basis that are approved by the Department of Director of People Services. Next slide, please. So looking forward, we could have some conversations to expand on the definition of academic programs to also include athletics not offered by the whole school. So that would immediately impact boys hockey at East and boys looking for swimming at West. Again, the eligibility rules would still be, WIA's eligibility rules would still be in effect. So this would not, if we decided to change this policy, a current 8th or 9th grader would not lose eligibility if they transferred within the district, but our 10th, there's a high likelihood that our 10th through 12th graders would lose a year of eligibility. Again, the WIA being pretty explicit that they would not grant a waiver for our hockey athletes in this situation. So with that said, that is all the information we had for you, and we welcome any questions, comments, or feedback.
Before we go to the questions from the board, I just want to thank the Wausau West administration that is here as well, supporting an East-West co-op. I think that's important to be stated, that everybody here in the district is in favor of what we're trying to do. We're trying to move in the right direction. So with that, that will be my introduction to any questions from the board members. I'm going to open up.
Sure. I hope it's okay that I have more statements than questions.
Well, we all do.
Yeah, so first, thank you for showing us those numbers. I think it's important for people to see that there's one East student at West, one West student at East. I remember a couple of years ago, I don't remember how many years ago it was, we looked into the same thing and it was similar. That's important so that people understand that the reason East can't support the full hockey program isn't because there's like 10 East kids playing for West team. That's not reality. And also I think it's important that those numbers are shown because it sheds a light on how ridiculous this decision was to block the East players from playing West. We're talking about 5 or 6 kids. Merrill's decision to me is disappointing. I know that the WAA told you that that's expected, it's the purpose of a co-op, and I agree with that. So I'm not disappointed in Merrill for deciding to end the co-op. If they have enough students, players to support a team, they should. I'm disappointed they decided 2 days before the deadline. They should have done it for a year later. But if I was going to give them the benefit of the doubt, I would say they decided that not because they don't care about East kids, but because they thought it was a no-brainer that West and East should be able to co-op together. Because looking at this information, it seems like a no-brainer, so, you know, I'll do our district leader in me and I'll presume some positive intent. I won't during the second part of what I have to say, but for this I will. And say that maybe they thought it was gonna be a no-brainer, East and West would be able to co-op because, you know, it's not gonna affect the number of teams in the valley, which is often a big issue. It's just gonna be, you know, kids, so it's not a big deal. So most of my disappointment then falls on the schools that voted against it. And I know the vote itself is private, but we know 2 of the schools are our schools. And one of the schools, DC Everett, wrote a letter in support of it. So that leaves 3, Stevens Point, Marshall, and Rapids. And those 3 principals, those 3 adults decided that these kids don't get to play hockey. And that's really, really disappointing. Especially since one of those schools is set up in a way that we actually considered doing recently, which was to have 3 junior highs funneled into one large high school, which is Stevens Point. That's what they do. They've got like 2,100 kids, 9th through 12th grade. They've got one large hockey program, that youth hockey program, that all funnels into one high school, and they voted to not allow Wausau to do the same thing. And the end result of that is probably going to have little to no impact on win-loss records over the next couple of years, but even if it did, who cares? We're talking about kids playing sports. What we should be thinking about is how do we get more kids playing sports, not how do we all get together and make a political decision or a win-loss decision to decide that we don't want, you know, one team to get an extra 2 players, and so we're going to prevent them from playing a sport. It's ridiculous. Try to presume positive intent on that one too, but I failed. So I don't really have any other any questions. I would make a suggestion, which is that even if the Valley doesn't come up with a tiebreaker for next year, I would put this to a vote again next year, because my understanding is those schools are receiving some feedback on their decisions. And they should be. And maybe when it comes to a vote next year, they'll have a different position than they had this year. So I would put it to a vote next year whether there's a tiebreaker or not. There's a million other things that I want to say, but you guys will probably cover it, so go ahead.
You actually came up with some positive comments. Thank you.
I tried.
Well, I'll fail at that.
Well, you were next.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mike, for setting the tone that I'm about to blow out of the water. If you want to ruin youth athletics, let adults get involved. That's what's happened here. I mean, in all intent and purpose, that's exactly what's happened. I don't care. You can put all the lipstick on a pig of what all these rules and regulations from the WIAA, and at the end of the day, it doesn't mean a damn thing, because all it is about is a few kids not being able to have the same opportunity as every other kid in the state to play varsity hockey. And when you start to look at the data, which fortunately I have and I think we'll be able to present, it's interesting to see and to question some of the motivations of those 3 schools that voted against. Because to me, that's the interesting part. Why? Why does it matter what we do with 4 or 5 varsity hockey players, junior varsity hockey players, 8th grade hockey players? I don't care what it is. Why does it matter? 3 schools that voted against. Marshfield, Jackson Hyde, principal. Marshfield already co-ops with Columbus Catholic. Am I not correct?
You're correct.
Marshfield co-ops with another school, and they voted against East co-oping with us, with another school in our district. How does that make any sense? Wisconsin Rapids, Roderick Watson, maybe he voted no because Rapids has won 1 game this year. Against who? Wausau East. Maybe they'll win their second tonight. Congratulations, because now they won't have to face that juggernaut of East Maryland anymore, because they've successfully run those kids out of varsity hockey. Stevens Point, John Vollendorf, not allowing East kids to play hockey. This is interesting. What you see up here is the conference standings from the last 4 years. Look at those numbers. Stevens Point, 10-0. Stevens Point, 10-0. Stevens Point, 10-0. Stevens Point, this was taken before last week's game, is now 7-1. 1 loss to Wausau West. one loss, okay? One conference lost in 4 years, and they're concerned about some type of equitable competitive play within a conference that they have dominated for 4 years. Actually, my understanding is it's 5 years. I didn't go back any further because I was running out of time. This is who voted against a co-op, okay? Over those last 4 seasons, they've scored 295 goals and allowed 32. They've scored 7.5 a game and didn't even allow a goal a game in the conference, okay? For comparison purposes, Maryland East team is a record of 8-30. This isn't a reflection of skill, this isn't a reflection of talent, coaching, anything like that. It's just a matter of circumstances in terms of how that team has come together. I pointed out only for reference, but you can see the numbers, okay? East has scored 51 goals and allowed 286. Compare that to what I just said about Stevens Point. The result of all this, Spash has won 4 straight conference championships, obviously. Congratulations, okay? Great players, great coaches, they obviously know what's going on, they've got a good feeder system, they do everything that they're supposed to be doing to develop a varsity and a junior varsity hockey program. Congratulations to them, truthfully. There's my positive intent, how's that? Over the last 4 seasons, after Spash has won their 4 conference championships, you know how many times they've made it to the state tournament? 0. 0. They have lost in 22 to Hudson. They lost in 2023. These are all in the sectional playoffs. I think I'm saying that right, BJ, right? They lost in 23 to Superior. They were the number 2 seed in 24, and they lost to Chippewa Falls. They were the number 1 seed last year and lost to Chippewa Falls again. Their last state tournament appearance was in 2009. They last won a game at the state tournament in 2006. They last won a state tournament in 2002. Okay? Why is it important? This is what I think is critical to this discussion, because it's already been said. Remember, East kids playing varsity at West has 0 impact on Point, on Rapids, or Marshfield's hockey teams. I think I'm stating that correctly, right? It doesn't cost them any money, it doesn't cost them any spots, it doesn't cost them ice time, it costs them nothing. Not a thing. But yet they still found it in their heart to say, no, we're not gonna allow these kids to play. Okay. Why would Spash, the clearly dominant team in the conference, vote no to allow these kids to play varsity hockey? 38-1 in the conference, can't make it to the state championship. There's your answer. The answer is fear. Okay? They're afraid. They're great in the conference. When they get outside of the conference, not so great. And their principal, in his infinite wisdom, I'm assuming, is the one who principals vote for this stuff, right, guys? Principals vote for this, yeah. Okay? Didn't want the East kids to play. 4 or 5 East kids to play for Wausau West, because God forbid that they may challenge Spash for a conference title at some point in the future. Maybe that's this year. Maybe they have to share the title now because of that loss last week. I have no idea. But why else would a team not want to encourage participation and build stronger competition within their own conference that would set them up for better success in the state tournament? Is it fun for them to go 10-0 every year and get beat in the playoffs? I'm guessing it's not. So why not support building stronger teams so you have more competition during these games? But for whatever reason, they said no. Wonderful. Some of the people that voted no for this have doctorates in educational leadership. I'm assuming that they teach classes, for those of you with PhDs, about doing what's best for all kids in these courses or in these programs. If they don't, they should. Because what's best for all kids would be to vote yes. It doesn't impact my kids in my school, but my vote does negatively impact kids that are 40, 50 miles away. And for whatever reason, They thought that that was okay. Integrity is doing what's right when nobody's looking, right? Courage is doing what's right when everybody's looking. So I don't, for the life of me, know why people don't have the courage, why some of these principals don't have the courage to call up and raise their hand out and say, you know what? That may have been a bad decision. Let's revisit this. Let's fix this. Let's move on. Because all of this stuff about having kids transfer and waivers, excuse me, and all this other stuff, the WIA, is noise. It's meaningless noise that nobody should have to worry about because we're talking about 4 or 5 kids crossing a river to play hockey. And yet, because of the bylaws and all this other stuff, whatever, you know, we can't do that. Lastly, Cassie, would you flip forward? Co-ops within the state of Wisconsin. By my count, and my eyes are getting old these days, so I may have missed a few. By my count, there are 185 high schools that co-op in Division I in the state of Wisconsin. 185. 22 are solo. 185 co-ops. 22 solo high schools. So don't tell me that there's not some precedent for kids in other bigger districts not to combine with other schools. Appleton does it, Fond du Lac does it, La Crosse does it. Look at the list, you got 182 to pick from. And what's most interesting, I don't know how many people knew this. Do you know that there are schools in the southern part of Wisconsin that co-op with high schools from Illinois? We co-op with schools from another state, and we allow 3 votes to tell us that we can't co-op with kids 5 miles away. Now, what the hell kind of sense does that make? And don't get me wrong, I'm supportive of that. I don't care where the kids are from. They're all getting to play hockey. I don't care if it was for curling, they get to play curling. But somehow the WIA allows that to happen, and yet when it comes to this, they say, no, we're washing our hands of it. We can't help you, you're likely not to grant waivers, we can't step in, we have no jurisdiction over that. That's a bunch of BS. So where do you go from here? Well, on the WIA's website, read it. Participation is the key. Students that participate engaged in high school programs and rigorous sports such as soccer, football, and hockey, I'm assuming, perform 10% better in math, science, blah, blah, blah. That's great. I'm glad they can put it on their website. They just don't live up to it. So maybe they ought to try walking the talk rather than just letting the words fly out of their mouth, because it's meaningless. Take it off your website. You don't support it. And the best part is, and I know you guys touched on this earlier, and I think it's absolutely true, the real leaders in all of this are the East and Merritt players, coaches, and parents. Without a doubt. They're the ones that have persevered, continue to play every game, year after year, knowing that they likely wouldn't contend for a conference championship, but they showed up anyway, and they competed. They may not have been making it to a state tournament, but they cared enough to continue to go, and continue to play, and continue to work hard. The coaches coached, and the parents supported because it was the right thing to do for the kids. That's the easy stuff. That's not hard to do. The kids just want to have an opportunity to play varsity. It's not that difficult. They know there's no guarantee they're going to be on a varsity team. They're not afraid to lose. Okay, they're not scared to play against better competition. They don't shelter themselves from adversity. They don't need safe spaces when things get tough. They just want to play varsity hockey. If the adults who voted against this had a sliver of the courage and integrity that these kids have, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. But yet, here we sit. And here we have a bunch of kids and families and coaches and community members who are sitting, not knowing what's going on because for some odd reason their kids are now going to be denied this opportunity. So my ask, I don't know, other board members feel free to support or not, is that I'm kindly requesting that the adults act like the leaders that you are supposed to be. Stop living in your fears. Do the right thing for all kids by allowing the East and West co-op to move forward. If for some reason that doesn't prevail, I, as 1/9 of this board, would absolutely support any and all legal action that could be taken to remedy this particular situation, much like we've seen at the NCAA level. because this is absurd. I've been on this board 14 years, I've seen, and frankly, I've probably been part of some really dumb decisions. This one is at the top of the heap, without a doubt. So,
Good?
that's it.
You good?
No, I'm not good, I'm pissed, but.
Thank you, Pat.
I'm good.
You put a lot of time into that. It took a lot of time to put the data together on that. It's pretty hard to refute data when you put it out in such a fashion. But I do want to continue with other board members. If they would like to make a comment, I'll go down this table and then come back this way. John?
I'm not gonna follow that, but ditto. My only question was any of this sort of data presented when we asked for that co-op to take place?
There was lengthy discussions on all of that, including more, similar to a co-op between Wausau East had a boys swimming standalone program, Wausau West did not. And similar to the admin for Wausau West, super supportive of everything that we've done. That co-op was supported. So yes, all of what we've discussed here, plus other components and frustrations and passions, other things that we haven't talked about, that our kids don't want to transfer schools. And in reality, if we're declining enrollment and 10 students transfer, 8 students transfer, that affects our building as a whole. So yes, to answer your question, all of that and more.
First of all, I really wanted to give Pat a chance to literally drop the mic, because I thought that was impressive. I enjoyed it very much.
Mic, we don't have to drop it.
Again, like John said, I'm not gonna dive into it. I feel like it's been covered as far as the positive and the negative, so I wanna talk about the systematic and the systemic piece of this, because we do have to figure out something going forward. I think a lot of the recommendations that you've made for going forward make sense. I think looking for changes in the bylaws makes sense. I think doing what we need to do to stand up and make sure this doesn't happen again to kids makes sense. So all of that, I think I speak for myself, and I'm guessing other board members here, to say we need to put those things into place and start moving forward to protect our kids going forward, and the kids from other districts and other schools. The other thing is a question that might be more of a Jim question, because my WIA knowledge is poor. I'm gonna use shocked, and that might not be a strong enough word, to hear that the dissolution of a program is not considered an extenuating circumstance for an eligibility ruling. I understand that eligibility rulings, to my knowledge, are put in place to avoid things like poaching of other talented students from other districts. That is the furthest thing from a program being dissolved. When a program is dissolved, we should all be scrambling to help those students find a home for whatever it is that they have lost, whether that be a sport or an extracurricular or a program in a school, an academic, whatever it might be. As educators, that should be our top priority. Can there be a conversation to ask WIA to make a change to that? What else is an extenuating circumstance if not we're killing the program?
That's a rhetorical question. I'm not going to
Yes,
respond.
but I guess my question is
Rhetorical.
there ever been a conversation with them? Like, is there reasoning that I am not understanding for why that's not an extenuating circumstance? Because like I said, my knowledge is poor. Or is that just something that we all are on the same page on and it's done? Yes, okay. So I'd like to also say that we should fight that.
All right, we're going to move back over to this side. Nick?
You guys did a great job describing it. The one thing is not holding accountable, but just letting your opinion known to those other principals. That, it's public information's out there on how to contact them. Obviously be cordial, be nice, but let your opinions heard and the reasoning for it.
Very well put.
I did actually have something to say, but how do you follow up after Lance and Pat so eloquently spoke to the subject, 100% in support of everything that they said, and I truly hope we can find a resolution for the kids that this impacts, and it's heartbreaking having kids who have played sports as a parent, I cannot even imagine how horrible that is to watch your children going through this, much less the student athletes themselves they have such a love for the sport, and, you know, and most of them have been playing probably since the time they could walk, and now they're entering their high school years, and to be told, sorry, there's no program for you. And for the decision to be made by those 3 schools it's heartbreaking, and I feel for them, so 100% support everything that Pat said in fighting this.
I just want to have a takeaway that I think parallels to what Pat, I think, was trying to say, which was coaches and parents of Wausau East. I don't know what kind of kids you've raised, but my gosh, you put the fear of the entire conference on the backs of your students. So they must be the toughest kids I've ever seen on ice, and I wish we weren't here tonight. I wish we could be witnessing them play tonight. We've all joined this board. We've all passionately been on this board to make sure that every child has an opportunity. And this just strikes at the core of every school district in the state. Right now, there are at least 10 school districts, right now as we speak, putting on the referendum to consolidate, merge because of budget shortfalls. What are they gonna do? You were given 2 days' notice. And as Sarah said, I think that's an extenuating circumstance. The time frame was unfair. It's absolutely terrible leadership. And I support every single legal opportunity we have to go and reverse this. I think it's just a terrible tragedy that's happening on our community. But just know that the rest of the conference fears what could happen when Wausau students are united. And I think that's the big takeaway, and you can tell them that's from me. Thank you.
Yeah, just one follow-up point. WIA said that they hadn't ever extended the deadline to form. That's not a no. So if one of these principals at Stevens Point or Marshall or Rapids has the courage to admit their decision was wrong, and it does take courage for anyone to admit they made a wrong decision, though we should all do that. But if they get some feedback and they decide their decision was wrong, we should have another vote, and then we should put it on WIA and ask for that extension. Because if there ever was going to be a time to have an extension, this would be the time. The reason you have that deadline is for scheduling and things like that. Well, this impacts nothing. We have a team, we have a Wausau team in the Valley Conference next year. Some players from East may play on it or not. Nothing changes. It doesn't impact the other schools, it doesn't impact the schedule, it impacts nothing. It could be decided 2 months from now and it would impact nothing. And so if there was ever a time to extend that, that deadline for the approval of the co-op, this would be the time for WA to do it. And so if just one principal decides to change their vote, we can put that on WA and see if WA will stand up for these kids.
I'm going to speak now, and I have to be careful what I say for many reasons, considering the fact I am on the Board of Control. I have been affiliated with the WIAA in one way or another for about 50 years as an official and as a coach, and been around for a while. A little history, I'm not surprised at this with the school in question that we're talking about, with the no vote, because I have seen that for many years, all the way back when the school district split. We split into 2. And the other school district in the state of Wisconsin that was asked to split, and has been asked many times, is one that we are talking about, south of us.
Point, I mean?
There you go.
Oh, I just want to make sure we're on.
Okay, so you clarify the term.
I wasn't sure, thank you.
Okay, so with all of that, this is not surprising to me. This is not surprising. This has happened in other sports as well. Sports do matter, whether people want to talk about it or not. Sports do matter. It helps create a total child. It helps create an individual. It helps us understand teamwork. It helps us understand right and wrong. Those are the things that athletics do for us outside of the classroom. And when you do well in athletics, you do well academically. And if you don't, we help you and we guide you to do better in academics. That's what educational athletics is all about, and that's what the WIAA is all about. Educational athletics, not athletics being run by AAU or anything like that, an outside force, but understanding that education and co-curriculars go hand in hand. So with that, I'm not surprised that we are where we are right now. But I don't want anyone to walk away with this without having some sort of understanding they were a part of it. Now, this all came upon us at a very last minute. And it wasn't us dissolving the co-op. It was the other school dissolving the co-op. And at a very, very late date, knowing the rules and regulations that are established for a reason. You don't change the rules during the game. As an official, I'll guarantee you, I don't change the rules during the game. But the bottom line is, the other school, our friend, decided to pull out. I don't understand why. Is that school going to stay in the Wisconsin Valley, or are they going to ask to go into the GNC? Are those questions being asked? What was the reason to pull so far and so close to the deadline? I'd like to know those answers to those questions. I mean, they have to be asked. It's not just the one side. There's a whole group here. And we weren't a part of that. And now we're scrambling for our students, our student athletes, to have the opportunity. So I'm throwing out some rhetorical comments because I know there aren't the answers here. But the point of the matter is, I think we need to ask those questions. And I do like the idea, and I do understand when a organization, membership driven, like the WIAA, makes the comment, we have never done that before. That's just a nice way for saying, no, we don't do that. So consequently, we won't know that answer unless we ask the question. So I think it is a good step to maybe have one of the three schools, the administration, take a look at what their choice was and give them an opportunity. I like that. Very much so, Lance. It's a good point. We could avoid a lot of problems if they said, wait a minute, I'm going to change. All right. If that doesn't happen, then I think we ask the question. Is this time that we look at extenuating circumstances? If that's the term, I will use the term extenuating circumstances. Because this is extenuating. Because it was dumped on us at the last minute. And I don't want anyone to walk away from this saying that, well, it's the Wisconsin Valley. Well, there might be other reasons. Those questions have to be asked. So, I could go on, but I won't, because Pat, you did a nice job in organizing your thoughts. I'm just shooting from the hip right now. So, did you have a follow-up?
Well, I was just thinking out loud, and Darcy, BJ, and those athletic directors, if you have relationships with the other school athletic directors, the SPASH AD is David Hauser, correct?
Yes.
And I believe the executive director of the WIAA is Stephanie Hauser. So maybe we could get some goodwill from our fellow conference school by brokering a conversation about an exception, about, perhaps this is the time that we need to do some things differently in a situation like that. If you guys have that relationship and maybe want to bring it up, to me it's worth an option before we have to go other avenues that will certainly get uglier and messier, much more involved for everyone else. So just something to think about.
Well, that's a good thought because of the fact that we do want to play within the rules. This should come through the administration. This should go through the ADs, to the principals, to the superintendents. I think we need to go through the proper protocol. And getting that, we are always talking with people in our own community, follow the proper protocol. Let's play within the rules. So I think this would be a good directive for our administration to continue and get to the point of asking all questions, not just a few, but all the questions that need to be answered. So with that, any final comments? Because we have taken a lot of time, which I knew we were going to. We planned on it, and thank you greatly for bringing the presentation to us. And we are all on the same page here in the Wausau School District about our students and our student athletes. So thank you. With that, agenda item 10C1, presentation of financial projection model assumptions. At the January Education Operations Committee meeting, Interim Assistant Superintendent of Operations Elizabeth Channel shared many of the key variables contributing to the district's multi-year financial projection model. The model represents a baseline using current information to which adjustments are subsequently made. The projection model uses budget numbers from the 2025-2026 district budget with percentages and or dollar amounts cast forward, along with the adjustments to create this baseline. Once these assumptions are built into the projection model, it will be presented to the board at a later date. Also, 10C2, governance, that was all information, that's all been done. Governance model option. At the January Education Operations Committee meeting, there was a discussion about potentially changing the audit of the bills committee and clarifying the purpose of the Education Operations Committee with potential rename of the meeting. I know this was discussed, and I've got somebody to the left of me that said I should do something, but I will put the motion on the table, and then we'll have a discussion. I'm seeking a motion to move to change the name of the Education Operations Committee of the Whole to Committee of the Whole, while changing the responsibility of reviewing the audit of the bills to the new Committee of the Whole to take place during that meeting. The audit of the bills committee would then dissolve.
So moved.
Second. Comments and questions?
No, it's just, it's been a long time coming, so it's not gonna significantly change how we practice, but it's a good change.
I think it's a good move, and I appreciate your point of view on that. Last, you have been around here for quite a while, and I've seen that. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 11. Ask the board to share any professional growth and development. That's where we're at already. Any comments from the board? Sarah, what about the convention? Was it a great convention?
Right, the convention was great, learned a lot, sat through a lot. As a whole, the state districts were very aligned with what we put forth in terms of preferences, with only small exceptions. And I think there was great discussion, so I would encourage anybody, whoever has a chance to kind of be there and take part in it, to do so. It's just really interesting to see representatives from all of the different districts in the states and the different opinions and ideas coming forward and discussing it. In the end, like I said, it was a really, really good alignment with priorities.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I know you were in a
I
very
actually had
good
intended
position.
to bring some stuff with me, but as some of the people in the audience already know, I spent today in the hospital with my mom, so I'm a little behind the 8 ball, but I will say it was a great experience, and if anybody has questions about how things went, let me know, and I'll be happy to provide that at the next one.
Perfect. And I encourage people in the future, if you can, I know everybody has jobs, it's very difficult to get away. If you get to the convention sometime, that'd be great. Mr. Sillers is not here today, so I'm going to go right on to Mr. Bushman.
Thank you. I just 2 quick comments. One, I'd like to recognize both our Wausau West administration and our Wausau East administration. To see them come together in the betterment for our kids, caring about all of our kids was inspirational. To put aside the river, to say this is what's best for us, it was really nice. It's not a situation that anybody wants to be in, but to see us on the same page, central office, our building administration and the board, doing what's best for kids, that's what it's all about. So the only other comment that I have is we are in the downhill slide for the school year, 3rd quarter and 2nd semester. So we're around when spring breaks just around the corner and the year will be over. So it's moving quickly and good things are happening. So thank you.
get out of the way. My slide goes fast, no doubt about that. I would like to put the liaison district activity report into order. Appreciate that. And at this point in time, I'm requesting for a closed session pursuant to state statutes. I'm seeking a motion to enter into closed session to discuss competitive negotiations of a purchase and sale of real estate, statute 19.85 1E.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sarah Brock?
Yes.
Charles Berger?
Yes.
John Creasure?
Yes.
Vicki Schmidt?
Yes.
Pat McKee?
Yes.
Jennifer Peele?
Yes.
Lance Charles?
Yes.
Jim Boucher?
Yes. Thank you very much.